I think this is
I
really
think
good.
this is really good.
Welcome to the podcast.
Welcome to the podcast.
Just
Just
more on
more
the
on the
debate all things
debate of the
with me as
with
always.
me as always.
No, do you
And
coaches,
the approaches,
hitter, welcome
hitter,
Elm,
Hello, everyone.
and I'm your
and
host.
I'm your host.
Brain Tomorrow
That
Podcast.
brings more pop.
As I'm wondering,
I wonder.
I am doing okay, mostly bored. The Christmas list has officially started though, so I am treating my occasional bouts of depression and boredom with retail therapy. Haha.
it's not
No,
actually.
it's not actually.
Yes, I know. You ruined the joke. Shut up.
Um,
Um,
I also want
I
to
also want to
apologize
apologize
for the echo.
Echo.
StreamYard is
StreamYard is
having
having
weird
weird
issues.
issues.
Uh,
Uh,
not really sure
not
on
really sure.
who.
All we were told is there's some kind of turf war going on between Android phones, which includes mine, and StreamYard, and therefore there will be echo issues
Yeah.
Yeah.
for some reason.
Um,
So let's start off
so start off
things going.
things going. Like everything was
Sweet.
sweet.
That rarely
That
happens.
rarely happens.
hmm This week was a week of mostly trailers because for some reason everyone was just dropping their trailer this week, presumably ahead of Thanksgiving, even though Thanksgiving isn't until the 25th. But oh well.
Okay. That's from the
That's from the financial
.com.
.com.
Marvel's
Marvel's
Finance,
Finance,
the Feel Good
the
Game,
Feel Good Game,
and it's published
also
on
published on
2023.
2023.
Written by
Written by
Chad
Chad
Satia.
Satia.
What's the name?
Chad
Chad
Satia.
Satia.
Okay.
Um,
Um,
Subheader is
is
Insomniac
Insomniac Probably
2020,
2020,
2018
2018
is an ode to
ode to
productivity,
optimism,
optimism,
Yeah, this is the social justice themed game review that has been doing the rounds to, the usual suspects. And it happened in October when we were busy doing holiday related shite, so here we are.
Alright.
Hi.
Score
Score
9 out of 10.
9 out of 10.
Yeah, there's nothing
Yeah,
wrong.
nothing wrong.
I'm
unaware
aware of
of
another.
another.
I'm
I'm
unaware of another
unaware of another
with anything
with
else.
anything else.
The feel
The
good
feel good
of Marvel
of
Spider-Man.
Marvel Spider-Man.
Okay, this is going to be difficult because I'm getting like every first half of every word, but not the like there seems to be a pause in between every word for you, and I don't know if it's the echo thing or if it's your Wi-Fi or if it's mine. I don't know, but it's being a pain in the ass. I'm going to try to dip out and come back in and see if that helps anything. But so far, you're like every other syllable of everything you're saying is being dropped, and it's being.
Should I keep hearing myself?
Okay, testing, 1, 2, 3, testing.
I can hear you.
It's still garbled. Fuck.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
That time I could, but I don't know if it will be consistent or not.
I think it's because I'm farther away from the
closer.
Okay,
Hear me
try
now?
to get. Yeah, that's better.
Okay.
Okay.
Alright, Giant
Okay.
Turtle.
Giant Turtle.
Got no
Got no
notifications.
There's
YouTube search.
YouTube search.
Yeah, the vicissitudes of technical difficulties are trying everything today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I send the link on the
link on the picture.
in case you're wondering if you're hearing it though, that's because of streaming. I can't control that.
Yeah, StreamYard is having technical difficulties. Brainstormer was just having technical difficulties, and hopefully we got those fixed. But anyway, we're covering that mimetic social justice themes Spider-Man article that was making the rounds a couple weeks ago, but it was in October and we were dealing with holiday related stuff. So we couldn't cover it, and now we're covering it.
So yeah, Giant hear me and too.
What?
I hate saying this, but for the moment, you can mute.
You want me to mute?
Because I think
Okay, I can try that. Yeah. Hold on.
okay, yeah. Can you hear me now, like without the Dragon Turtle? Okay. Okay, so I'll read a paragraph and then you can unmute and respond to that. I think that can work for the time being. Yeah, so I'll read the paragraph now just so we can get through that. Because I assume you can hear me. I'm just going to assume. I'm unaware of another blockbuster game with anything close to the good vibes of Marvel's Spider-Man 2. Insomniac Games follow-up to its 2018 hit Marvel Spider-Man and the 2020 spin-off Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales has so much positive energy and progressive political messaging that at one point I actually found my cheeks hurt from prolonged grinning. You can unmute now, Don, because I feel like you have something to say about that.
Okay, here is the problem, my darling. Do you realize, okay, that your political zeitgeist is the thing that most people go to this kind of entertainment to escape from, not into, from. Do you see the difference? You seem to use fiction to create your idealized utopia free of any practical considerations that it would normally entail in the crappy old real world. And you also seem to use it as a tool to exercise whatever demons are bequeathed to you by people you don't like, existing in the same space that you exist in, whether you like it or not. But most people, okay, don't like politics inculcated into their preferred forms of art or the preferred forms of entertainment. And the fact that you would place politics over the in-universe logic of a Spider-Man game and consider that a positive tells me you are not qualified to be doing the job that you are currently doing. Because you see, most people prefer when the thing they buy, the value of the thing they buy is in the thing itself, not in the secondary thematic bullshit that is appended onto the thing that they like. But they buy the thing for the sake of the thing. They buy a Spider-Man game because they're fans of Spider-Man or video games or both, usually both. They do not go to a Spider-Man game for the sake of politically utopian nonsense. And yet your preferred your headliner in this article is, it contained the right amount of my preferred political utopian nonsense. Do you see how this article got memed to shit and back when it made the rounds earlier this month? Because you are supposed to be a video game critic / video game journalist. And the first sentence, or rather, I guess I should say, first paragraph of your piece, literally was, it. It was so politically beautiful that I didn't even pay attention to the Spider-Man stuff. And that is the very definition of the kind of cringy moralistic nonsense people do not like. In fact, the thing people like to go out of their way to spite as much as possible. It's just like if this game came out in the the late 90s and early 2000s and then proceeded to say, "Oh, it was so positively Christian. It was so halal that I couldn't help but smile the whole time." Do you see how that sentence wouldn't make any fucking sense and would in fact tell you next to nothing about the quality of the game? I hate to burst this particular bubble for you, my dear, but people don't go to art or entertainment or like storytelling for morality. They go to art, storytelling, and entertainment for the sake of escaping highly censorious authoritarian morality where possible. That doesn't mean that you can't take philosophical, like ethical or moral lessons from pieces of art and so forth. But you see, again, using the analogy of comparing the SJWs, comparing the social justice movement to the family values movement from like 30 years ago. Just like the very definition of cringy content in the 90s was anything that kowtowed or sublimated itself to the fundamentalist Christian and family values mentality. And the thing that was interesting, the thing that was fun, was the thing that sanded against that moral grain. The things that people want to see in this day and age are the things that oppose the current authoritarian moral zeitgeist, which is social justice. So you saying that this game is approved under the metric of social justice is as good as saying that it is a shit game that is overly preachy and moralistic. Anyway, we can continue now. I will mute again.
Okay. As you swing through the game, the immense and detailed virtual New York, you'll take in a fantastically diverse city filled with various ages, gender identities, physical abilities, and skin colors, all just living their lives. There are cultural street festivals with dancing, cooking, you can almost smell, rainbow and Ukrainian flags hanging in front of stores. People speak in the languages in which they're fluent, which that means English, Spanish, or ASL. Okay, hold on, Don, before you, I think you are going to say something. But has this motherfucker never been to New York? That's it.
That's it.
To the best of my knowledge, this person lives in New York, and that's why she's extolling the virtues of the realism, quote unquote. But again, I hate to burst this bubble, but basic bitch, plot and story relation to, themes and bullshit. Again, you do realize that when people play a video game or read a story or watch a movie, they typically, I'm not saying that nothing meaningful or artistic can be gained from a realistic or day-to-day setting. Some of my favorite comics about some of my favorite comic book characters are notable for the fact that they take a ordinary day for that character or that character's world and spotlight it. One of the best Sandman stories from Neil Gaiman's Sandman is The Sound of Her Wings, which is basically Dream and Death going about death rounds together. But here's the thing. Here is the thing that makes that work, whereas this kind of stuff does not work. When you do a day in the life of X character type stories or day in the life of X world type stories, even the day-to-day goings-on of a character like Dream of the Endless or a character like Doctor Strange is notable for the fact that things which are otherworldly and abnormal to a character like a Doctor Strange, a Doctor Fate, or a Dream of the Endless are like wondrous and mystical to the average normie. And likewise, part of the reason why slice of life stories can work with extraordinary characters or extraordinary worlds is when the character in question treats something extremely obscure, epic, and rarefied as par for the course. This is another on the many virtue list of Dresden Files. The part of the storytelling that makes Harry particularly interesting as a character is his life is so inculcated with obscure and random bullshit that it is normal to him. It is normal to him to have a fairy queen hold him up against a wall and basically threaten him within an inch of his life. It is normal for him to be shot up by random mob thugs that were hired by Gentleman Johnny Marcone, etc. And you can even have the world in question mostly parallel the real world. Again, look at urban fantasy in general or Dresden Files in particular. Most of the real world that Dresden inhabits is recognizable as something that you would know if you lived in and around the Chicago area. But again, even so, what's notable about Dresden's Chicago that makes it somewhat distinctive from vanilla Chicago is hidden in and amongst the normalness of it all. You have the otherworldly, the ancient, the mystical, and the epic. Dresden, Chicago is notable for the fact that you are as likely to be assaulted by, hitmen from the deepest reaches of fairy as you are hitmen from the average mafioso outfit, and so on. And likewise, you can do a slice of life story in the Marvel universe with a superhero character, because the day-to-day goings-on of a character like Spider-Man are different from the day-to-day goings-on of any average person. But by focusing on the slice of life stuff in opposition to the superheroics, or instead of the superheroics, you are nerfing anyone's ability to have a compelling or interesting story. There's nothing interesting to be gained from that kind of slice of life story, unless you're trying to tell something like a romance story or a friendship story, which you could conceivably do. But what you've described there is not even the bits of an average person's day that would be relevant to that kind of plot. Even average normies can have interesting lives, but there are still parts of an average person's life that are interesting, like if they're in a new relationship, or they're establishing a new friendship, or they're trying to get ahead in their, career or something. And there are parts of the average person's life that are not worth remarking upon or centering in a story in any way whatsoever. Like basically everything you just described there. And therein lies the problem. You can do a slice of life story, but the life you take a slice of either has to be interesting, or the slice you take of it has to be some kind of microcosm that would be interesting. And what you're describing sounds to me like something that did neither. It sounds to me like someone stuck a whole bunch of normal ass everyday goings on in the middle of a Spider-Man game, and you're surprised why this article became a meme around the internet while everyone mocked you for some reason, even though it's patently obvious to everyone who has two synapses that fire correctly. Anyway, I'm a mute again, so we can move on.
Okay. Admissions often up the positivity ante. Some of my favorites are ones where there isn't even any fighting or action, but rather Freddy doing friendly neighborhood friends. Like when he helps a gay kid arrange a series of surprises around campus for his boyfriend. At one point, someone says they want to pay Spider-Man for his jokes, and replies that Spider-Man never accepts payment, except for hugs. He'll always take a hug. Even the main story about a big bad named Kraven the Hunter coming to New York used to see supervillains as human prey, and a sort of superhero-themed version of the most dangerous game, shows Spider-Man's gift to empathy as he helps out reformed criminals who become Kraven's target. When we meet Tombstone, he's just an ex-con trying to make a living and still cuts on Tony Allen. Everyone deserves a second chance.
Okay. From what you just described there, I can almost certainly tell that you are not a comic book or superhero fan. You want to know how I know that? It's because you described Kraven the Hunter in the most nonchalant way you could describe Kraven the Hunter, but you didn't describe him in any way that denotes that you're familiar with Kraven the Hunter. a comic book fan, even one who doesn't particularly like Spider-Man, like myself, I'm more into the cosmic mystical side of things, as anyone who knows me knows. But even I would, if I was describing Kraven the Hunter's appearance in a game, say something like, the long-awaited Kraven the Hunter, or the thing that its fans will be familiar with, the story of Kraven the Hunter fighting Spider-Man, because to comic book fans, even ones that don't particularly focus or pay attention to Spider-Man all that much, we know that Kraven the Hunter trailing Spider-Man most dangerous game style is quite a big deal, and it's been done several times in the comics. I also can gather that you're not a big fan of Kraven the Hunter, or of Spider-Man in general, or superheroes in general, because your first reference was Most Dangerous Game. Now, that would be something useful if you were making a movie based on Kraven's Last Hunt, and you were to describe Kraven the Hunter to a studio executive or something, or someone who hadn't heard of it, i.e., its most dangerous game with superheroes. That would be fine if that was how you were describing it. But you're describing it to people who are likely to play this Spider-Man game. And almost everyone who knows anything about Spider-Man knows who Kraven the Hunter is and what his MO is, and what indeed is his relationship to Spider-Man generally. Again, even people like me who are only tertiarily familiar with Spider-Man by osmosis, or from other adaptations of the character. But this just goes to prove that you, my dear writer of this article, are not a superhero fan, are not a nerd well versed enough in video game lore or comic book lore or any kind of, nerdy lore to already know who and what these characters are. Also, if you were an actual fan, you wouldn't have just blown off Kraven the Hunter as though he is not important to the overall story, because, again, to anyone who is even remotely familiar with Spider-Man as a character, when Kraven the Hunter shows up, it's a big freaking deal. He is one of Spider-Man's most dangerous reoccurring villains, and he has been central to some of the most memorable stories of the character. And again, I know that even though Spider-Man is not one of my characters, and I only am mostly familiar with him from osmosis. Which goes to prove that even by the low standard set by someone like me, you're not enough of a fan to even have run into this character already by osmosis, which is somewhat telling considering you're trying to be a video game journalist reporting on a video game, and all you can talk about is a mixture of, oh, isn't the social justice so utopian and wonderful, and isn't the slice of life stuff that distracts from the superheroics wonderful, because I don't like focusing on the superheroes for some reason in a superhero video game. Dunce. I'm calling it. This person is an absolute dunce. And I'm muting again.
Alright, so just because Jennifer has been saying some things, recent one, that multiple times have been reviewing the story or creating tried it multiple times. I'll be honest, Kraven is not exactly my forte. I'll be honest, I've kind of leaned away from a lot of the Marvel stuff and just kind of gone more DC. So
in answer to your question, it's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. They've tried to do different versions of the story before, but also, yes, Kraven does, whenever he shows up, basically try to mount Spider-Man on his wall, like freaking Skulker from Danny Phantom. Which, yes, I'm fully aware that Skulker probably was based more on Kraven and not the other way around, but I was introduced to Skulker first, and I have a stronger connection to the Danny Phantom mythos than I do the Spider-Man mythos, so Subi.
Also, I did not know Kraven meant coward. And I have no idea why his name is that.
Craven can also mean someone who's just a degenerate in general, or someone who's straight up animalistic. That's why his name is that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Okay. Sec. It's also worth noting that our hero, or heroes, also serve as a talking point for the game's progressive messaging. Now, you could play as both 20-something Peter Parker and teenage Black Puerto Rican Miles Morales, switching freely between them throughout. Even more importantly, Mike has wisely placed them on level 4. They are both Spider-Man, but there's actually a running joke about what to call them as a duo. Spider-Man or Spider-Man. And there is no paternalistic talking down from Peter to Miles. They are equal in every way. I mean, Peter's a mentor. Honestly, they act like brothers. So, I don't know.
Yeah, but here's the thing. This is once again it's sort of the writer of this article playing their hand, because we, people who are tangentially related to geek shit, want there to be a mentor-mentee relationship between Peter and Miles, at least to some degree. But the writer of this article sees that as would see him being a mentor as talking down to Miles, which once again, the fact that you prioritize your rarefied moral and political concerns over things like in-universe logic or character or storytelling is itself quite telling. Two, there is perfectly valid reason for Peter to quote-unquote talk down to Miles, you idiot, because whether the SJWs or whether the social justice-minded individuals like it or not, Peter came first. Peter is the originator of the mantle, and Peter is the more experienced Spider-Man. And that will not change no matter how much you insist they are made equal. And also, once again, the fact that they are made equal in this writer's mind, and there is no paternalistic talking down, i.e. mentorship, of the character, that basically means that the writers of the game were pandering to SJWs, trying to make Miles Morales be on a more equal footing than he should be, and minimize or lampshade any mentorship Peter had to Miles. Which is a sign that in the process of pandering to the SJWs, the writers of the game themselves made a in-universe logical faux pas. Because again, regardless of how equal the SJWs want Miles and Peter to be, they are two different characters, and Peter is the one in the mentorship role. Period. End of discussion. Moving on.
You hit the wrong button.
Shite.
Alright, I think I also have some, no, I didn't have anything, I'm good. Alright, so the game makes for fantastic escapism, acting as a counterpoint to the growing intolerance of the meat space we inhabit when not playing. The bold movement in industry, the big players voice tend to shy away from any sort of potentially divisive messaging. Don't be surprised if a vocal minority of players boycott the game for its social justice themes. But anyone who refuses to play Spider-Man 2 simply because of its pro-people vibe is going to deny themselves one of the most entertaining games of the year. Indeed, Insomniac has built upon everything that made the original one of the most beloved superhero games of all time.
Okay. Let me explain to you the 50,000 things wrong with that paragraph. because it contains basically everything wrong with everything in one paragraph, which is, I suppose, a kind of feat, but God, is it annoying. Notice what the writer of this article thinks escapism means. She doesn't, when she uses the word escapism, she's not referring to escaping into the larger than life lore and mythos and character of the setting. She's not referring to escaping the real world into the lore and intrigue of Spider-Man. She is referring to using the video game as a political safety bubble, because she doesn't like that people can push back against social justice in real life. And so she relies upon quote unquote escapism to escape from people holding her accountable into a world where the world is literally designed to be social justice themed from the ground up. And she literally thinks that only social justice is moral or quote unquote pro people. She just as much said so. She conflates being compliant with the morality of social justice with being in favor of humanity in general. That's why she said people who are upset by the game's pro people vibe, because she conflates being being a fabrication of the social justice utopia with being in favor of humanity in general. And therefore, if anyone is opposed to social justice, they must be opposed to people in general, or misanthropic. Which, no. And this isn't just wrong because it's social justice, and social justice is bunk from the ground up, by the way. This is, again, using the comparison of the Family Values Brigade, the evangelical fundamentalist tradcons of yesteryear. This is like saying only Christians or people of the same stripe of fundamentalist Christian morality as whoever would have been the writer of this back in the day. That's like saying only Christians are real people, or only monotheists are real people, or only people who follow Abrahamic religions are real people. That's effectively what she just did. She said only people in favor of social justice are pro people or in favor of humanity in general. You're either on my moral board or you're a nihilistic misanthrope who hates everything. That's what she just said, effectively. And it is just as bullshit and myopic as would it have been if a tradcon of yesteryear had said, anyone against its pro-virtue sensibilities are depriving themselves of something, or something along those lines. Which they did back in the day. They did discriminate between things that were pure and unsinful, or things that were dark and satanic and edgy. So, yeah, no, this is bullshit no matter what you change the operative word to, my dear. Your morality is not the only way someone can be pro-people. And just like I would argue that fundamentalist traditional conservatism, evangelicalism, and family values nonsense is in and of itself not even pro-people, I would make a distinct argument that social justice, even on its own terms, isn't pro-people. You want to know how I know? Because things that are actually pro-people don't ideologically or morally discriminate and then presuppose that anyone opposed to it are immoral subhumans. Any ideology that does that without very, very specific descriptive terms is in and of itself misanthropic, because this kind of moralism is always, to some degree, nihilistic. It's based on the assumption that the only way the world can be good or that people can be good is if they follow my prescriptions for how you be a good person. And anyone who disagrees with my prescriptions of how you be a good person is fallen and damned and sinful and actually a net negative to the world they inhabit. That's basically what that amounts to. Moving on, though, because I feel like I've rambled enough. Muting. God damn it, I did it again.
Alright, the design team is taking full advantage of PlayStation 5 technological bells and whistles to give us a bustling city with a possibly long drawn lines and skyscrapers draped in gorgeous ray tracing lighting effects. It's the current pinnacle of urban open world gaming, and I never noticed lag or stutter while I was looking around. The game did unexpectedly quit on me a couple times during busy scenes, thank goodness for frequent autosave, but I took that as evidence Insomniac is pushing boundaries at this point. A good deal of thought has also been placed into our heroes' looks and abilities. They both got dozens of suits to earn, each with 4 color variants, and we gradually unlock oodles of skills and gadgets to play from a web-slinging hub device that conveniently pulls all nearby baddies to a single location for easier smackdowns. Peter's robotic spider legs, which pop out on command and can make short work for almost any. On the subject of delicate leg work, battles feel like ballet. Managing to feel agile and graceful in equal measure, effortlessly linking between targets with perfectly choreographed twists, slides, and dodges while raining down a dizzying barrage of punches, kicks, and web shots. And somehow it's all done with just a handful of button commands. Nothing too daunting or complex.
Okay, and notice that it literally took the writer almost until the entire end of the article to get to anything resembling the graphics or the gameplay, or indeed the actual superheroics within the superhero game. Notice that she was more interested in all of the quasi-utopian, this is a safety bubble from my ideology, real world hyper-normal nonsense, and only just now got into either the aesthetics, the graphics, or the gameplay. You know, far be it from me to be a cynical jackass, but I'm gonna be a little bit of a cynical jackass. In a sane world, my dear, those two poles would have been flipped entirely. It would have been 90% graphics and gameplay and actual plot-based mechanics and fighting within the context of a superhero game, and maybe a paragraph's worth of oh, and also I like the messaging or the social justice or what have you. But instead, in the world in which we currently find ourselves, mind you, there's also the other option of you could have left out the social justice entirely and focused entirely on the gameplay and the graphics and so on. But yeah, barring either of those two extremes, either flipping the script entirely and focusing mostly on the gameplay and the graphics and the aesthetics, and then maybe mentioning in the last paragraph the social justice nonsense, or leaving out the social justice entirely, the world in which we currently find ourselves is a world where the article is 90% social justice and only 10% the reason anyone would actually want to play this game. And you think that you are doing a good thing by doing that. Because to you, being a morally and politically good person is more important than silly little things like the game having any sort of meritocracy to it, or gameplay, or graphics, or aesthetics, or lore. Actually, to be fair, she didn't even mention the lore, the character arcs, or the character consistency. So not only did she leave the graphics and gameplay and aesthetics to the last possible second. She didn't even mention the story, the characters, or like the consistency with the lore or any of that nonsense. And again, far be it for me to be a cynical asshole, but in a game that has a pre-established lore, i.e., an adaptation of a comic or a movie, you would think that character consistency and lore would be important, especially given how crucial storytelling is to modern day video games, as well it should be. But no, that doesn't even get a mention. The graphics and gameplay and aesthetics get barely a paragraph, and like 80% of the article is just it allows me to exist in a social justice themed utopian safety bubble. And I don't have to acknowledge the existence of people I consider to be subhuman for 5 seconds. But I'm still going to rant and rave at them, even though I know that I'm safe from them, because according to the ideology that is social justice, you have to disavow and shame the unmentionables whenever you possibly can. Muting.
Okay. Yeah, sorry. I muted myself, so I didn't. Okay, yeah, okay. Yeah, I muted myself, so you can cause me echo, and I forgot that I was muted, so I was talking for like a good minute there before I realized that, so my bad. And while even simple thug lacking tasks have a cinematic, big set piece titles feel like something out of a Marvel movie. We often get to watch Miles and Peter battle bad guys while simultaneously working to save imperiled civilians, sliding down a sliding dock, or hanging from a dangling roller coaster. And a very type of superhero, sticky wickets. I was sometimes so taken in by the tension and spectacle that I almost missed quick time event prompt, press a button. Granted, sometimes it feels like Insomniac, in its push to give us more than we could have imagined, almost goes a bit too far. Like the addition of a wingsuit so that Spider-Man can glide through Manhattan's glass and steel canyons a little more quickly. It's an innovation likely born from the sheer size of the city, which can take long minutes to traverse by web slinging alone. It can be useful, but it doesn't feel very Spidey-ish. I generally preferred web swooping up and down, even if it took a little longer.
Okay, so again, we have the last complaint that this person made is literally when the game focuses too much on the superhero part of the superhero video game, when the scale is actually a bad thing, when it actually doing things that are cinematic or would be seen in a Marvel movie is a bad thing. Which again goes to show you where this author's head is at. Because literally they don't want the game to focus on the actual main characters, either Miles or Peter, or the superheroics, or the actual fight scenes or anything, or the plot or the characterization. They want a Spider-Man themed real world simulator, basically. They want the authority of the Spider-Man IP, but they don't want any of the nasty, geeky particulars of the Spider-Man IP. Which, again, leads me to the question of why is this person employed as a video games journalist? Why is this person being allowed to do a review of a video game based on a superhero if they neither like video games nor superheroes? Why are you allowing this article to consist of like three-quarters worth of social justice proselytism and like only about 10 to 15% of actual stuff relating to the gameplay or the mechanics or the aesthetics, and not a single word said about the story or characters or world building in a game that is based on a pre-existing IP that has characters, story, and world building baked into it. Because typically you don't go to the person who is incapable of eating half the menu to get a food critic review. You don't go to the blind deaf person who hates movies for a movie review. And may I be so bold as to suggest we don't go to people who view art and story and pre-existing IPs as means to an end or weapons in a political war we're fighting, a political and moral war we're fighting, to get their opinion um on a superhero video game. Because and again, using the analogy, I don't want Jack Thompson's review of any given video game from the 90s. I don't want um Gavin McGinnis's review of video games or comics or anything like that. I don't need Matt Walsh's opinion on anime because he has a moral presupposition that makes him hate them. And or sometimes a political supposition that makes him hate them. And someone who has a political or moral or ideological supposition to hating a given kind of subject matter probably shouldn't be put in charge of reviewing and engaging with that particular subject matter, because not only is it cruel to the person because they don't like what they're doing, but it's also cruel to anyone who does give a shit about the superhero video game for the sake of either its superheroicness or its video gamishness. Someone who likes video games really doesn't want to sit there and read for 20 minutes about how they're actually a really honestly terrible person and how everything they like makes the world worse and makes them immoral and makes them subhuman. Do you see? And nor, certainly, do they need to be lectured on how their IP or the thing they like is being morally, politically, and ideologically occupied or weaponized against them and their enjoyment. When a superhero video game is made specifically to spite fans of superheroes or fans of video games, may I be so bold as to say someone done fucked up? Just a thought. All I'm saying.
Right, okay. Um, but if that's the worst complaint one can level at Marvel Spider-Man 2, Insomniac must be doing something right. And it does nothing to diminish the game's absolutely lovely energy. Every play session left me upbeat and like all was right with the world, or at least the world within the game. Would that more interactive entertainment left me in such an ethereal mood? Yeah,
What word?
ethereal.
Spell it.
Hold on, let me. I'll put it in the chat.
Um. Oh, ebullient is the word. It means like ecstatic or joyous or festive. But back on point of addressing the article. Notice that what this person liked about this game is that it is moral in the eyes of social justice. It's a good moral parable on the terms of social justice. She did, or the person who wrote this article didn't like half of the superheroic stuff. Didn't like or didn't feel the gameplay or the aesthetics was worth mentioning until the like third to last paragraph. What this writer likes is that this game acts as a moral safety bubble against everything about the real world that they don't like, not for the sake of giving them an alternative world to escape into, but by basically whitewashing everything about the real world that she doesn't like, but doubling down on anything that they do like and minimizing as much as possible the IP itself, the characters, the world building, the superpowers, the fight scenes, all of that is a distant third in this person's mind to the fact that it is a good portrayal of the social justice utopia. And my dear, I hate to burst this actually no, this bubble I will gladly burst. You do realize that the reason you're getting pushback on your extremely authoritarian moralistic ideology is the same reason why the trad cons of yesteryear got pushed back on theirs. Namely, people really don't like when morality is forced into every crevice of the public sphere and every crevice of their culture and every crevice of every pre-existing IP. Because people like the IPs as they are for their own sake. And if you don't like anything for its own sake or on its own terms, if you only like anything as and when it is a politically or a political or moral cudgel for which or with which you can beat everyone over the head or wrap yourself in like it's freaking bubble wrap or cotton wool and you're trying to be, like it's a freaking moral hazmat suit, um then you can fuck off, my dear. Like anyone who is so authoritarian that they literally need to see their worldview reflected back on them at every interval and get like morally put out when the world pushes back against them for being moralistic cunts. It's just I don't even know how to describe what that means for that person, but they should still fuck off. They are not welcome in IPs, in entertainment, in art, because art and morality, while they can sometimes coexist if you use them as a philosophical tool, not as a political one, really should not have anything to do with each other. Morality is something that should not belong in the public sphere, period. Only ethics belongs in the public sphere, and even then, it should be restrained to very, very specific or very specific institutions that are meant specifically to deal with ethics. Like, ethics can be dealt with in the court system and in the legal system and in, to some extent, the government system, but anywhere else, even ethics, has its limits in the public sphere. The private sphere is its own thing, but when you force things that belong in the private sphere into the public sphere and make everyone's life worse and less meritocratic as a result, then you can fuck off. Morality belongs in the private sphere and only the private sphere. If you bring it into the public sphere, you are going to get the shit beat out of you, and you deserve to. End of discussion. Anyway, moving on to the trailers. And I guess I have to mute again while the trailer's going. Otherwise, it will echo like a son of a bitch.
No, because
because
it.
it.
Actually, I'm not
Actually, I'm not
entirely.
entirely.
Um,
Um,
yeah, I
yeah,
think it's just
I think it's just
my mic.
my mic. I mean, most
But I will
that
mute
I will mute
myself
myself
because I have
if I
to.
have to.
Mm-hmm.
Time. Time is a funny thing. The past. The future.
I can't see it. It's still buffering on my end. I'm going to have to dip out and come back in. Technical difficulty seems to be the theme of the night. Sorry, folks. Okay. And we're back. Again, apologies for the inevitable technical difficulties tonight. The internet seems to just be shitting itself for no explicable reason. Someone fed the internet a laxative, I guess. Which I just now realize makes us the diarrhea, but oh well. And I apologize for the dead air. I tried to I tried to excuse myself in the hope that it would make the buffer faster, and as a result, it left dead air when Brainstormer also inevitably had technical difficulties. So, womp. Womp, 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 womp. Sad trombone. Okay, Dragon Turtle, strangely, that turn of phrase makes me feel better, but it probably shouldn't. But good for you. You made ethical use of your puns tonight, apparently, because the pun actually made me feel better for once. Anyway, yes, we are covering the first look of the live action Avatar: The Last Airbender, done by Netflix. I am cautiously optimistic, but I also have concerns. And come hell or high water, I'm sure it will be better than the M. Night Shyamalan version. But that bar is buried so far into the earth, it might as well hit the bedrock by now. Actually, I think it might be encased in bedrock. The bar is so low, it has been encased in bedrock, and only the worthy may remove it. We will see if Netflix is one of the worthy. Anyway, cactus juice, because Avatar. Or actually, no, papaya, because Katara hates it. Pick your favorite Avatar fruit meme or food meme here. Actually, Fire Flakes. Fire Flakes is a cool one, but hit the button.
Time. It's a funny thing. The past. The future.
Okay, here's the thing. So far aesthetically, I have no major comments. This opening monologue, however, kind of made me worried the first time I heard it when I watched the trailer on my own time, because basically the gist of this monologue is the past and the future getting jumbled, which maybe I've been hit with the postmodern reinterpretation stick a few too many times, but whenever any character diegetically or non-diegetically talks about how the past and the future are becoming muddled, or the past and the future are intertwined and indistinguishable from one another, I worry that someone somewhere is going to hit that whatever I'm watching with the deconstruction stick, just like they did in The Last Jedi. The path must die, burn it down if necessary. So I am at least a little worried that this is the opening monologue, because typically you're supposed to put your best or most exemplifying foot forward in a trailer. And if the first monologue is literally, we're going to postmodern deconstruct Avatar, um, is not a good sign. Is someone somewhere deserves to be fired for making this monologue the first one. Um, Honestly, what you should have and could have easily done, replicate Katara's opening monologue from the show that we all have memorized from childhood. That would have been my first move, but nobody consults me on these things. Anyway, other than that, I have no complaints. It's just that opening monologue has me quaking in my metaphoric boots, which are sometimes not metaphoric, but I'm not wearing them right now, so they are metaphoric in this moment. Anyway, Fireflakes. Shit. According to Brainstormer, he got echoes of the trailer through my mic, so I'm gonna have to mute during the trailer as well, but Fireflakes. To Dragon Turtle's point, I am surprised they didn't go with Inuit actors for Katara and Sokka, but maybe there just weren't enough Inuit actors. But Fireflakes. Dragon Turtle, you son of a bitch! You one upped me by reminding me of the cabbages. We should have gone cabbages. Damn it! There are too many interesting food items in the Avatar universe. They make the choosing of the banana very difficult. I just now realized how many noteworthy food items there are of in the Avatar universe. God damn it! This just goes to prove how awesome Avatar is, but it still makes choosing the banana difficult. But cabbages. Brainstormer, I don't know if you're trying to talk, but neither I nor Dragon Turtle can hear you, for you are muted, my dude. Okay, I guess he was having technical difficulties again. But this time I am here to fill the dead air. And typically when there is dead air, I sing, but I will first check the chat to make sure that there is nothing worth mentioning. What's been going on, Dragon Turtle, is that there are simply a Grimm's number factorial number of technical difficulties going on tonight. So we have just been fucked by the YouTube gods have failed to smile on us this night, and that's just how that is, I suppose. I was going to fill the dead air with winter, spring, summer and fall, winter, spring, summer and fall, 4 seasons for love, 4 seasons for love. I would do Girls from Ba Sing Se, but I don't have that one memorized. I have the winter, spring, summer, and fall one memorized, partially because it is simply so easy, but also partially because I actually don't remember the Girls from Ba Sing Se. I've never remembered the Girls from Ba Sing Se too well. Like the part of Book 2 Earth that I remember is the part after they get in to see the Earth King. I don't remember a lot of what happened in Ba Sing Se. I know Iroh had his Jasmine Dragon tea shop, and Zuko briefly had his, character growth and happy moments, and then it was dashed when Azula came along, like the spider that she is. But I don't remember much of like in between getting into Ba Sing Se and like before the meeting with the Earth King. That was the only thing I remember from that bit. I suppose I could have done Soldier Boy, but that song just straight up makes me sad. Iroh's Soldier Boy song for Luten, because there are certain codes written into, I think, every millennial's heart, and that song, that moment where Iroh is singing for Luten just gets to me every time. I think it might be one of those keyboard shortcuts to make every millennial cry. Oh, so the Soldier Boy song isn't instinctively isn't one of your cry triggers, because it certainly is one of my cry triggers, because Iroh, as we all know, is the best character in that show, and nothing bad should ever happen to him because he is too wholesome for this world. But yes, Brainstormer is back, so we can return to your regularly scheduled cabbaging or fire flaking or cactus juicing, because there are far too many memeable food references in Avatar, which I suppose is a sign of good world building in everything except Korra, because fuck Korra for even existing. Both the show and the character. She's really bad, and her show was also a clusterfuck. Anyway, cabbages.
It all gets mixed up. There's only one way to keep it straight.
And again, as I said, it might be that I've been hit with the deconstruction stick a few too many times, but why was that the opening monologue? Anyway, moving on. Aesthetically, it looks kind of cheap, but it is, TV budget. So I guess I can live with it looking kind of cheap as long as it's better than either the Emerald Island Players episode interpretation or the M. Night Shyamalan interpretation, which I swear to God makes more sense as an adaptation of Emerald Island Players rather than the actual show. Anyway, I've always believed that Peter Jackson would be a good person to adapt the Avatar franchise. I would want 6 movies, two for every book of the 2 for every book of the series, because if you remember Avatar well, you remember there's half of book 1 water that is getting to the Northern Water Tribe and half of stuff that happens within the Northern Water Tribe. Then Earth Kingdom is basically, book 2 Earth is basically the same way. Everything that happens before you get to Ba Sing Se and everything that happens in Ba Sing Se or related to the Earth King. And then Fire is the same way. Everything that happens before Day of Black Sun and everything that happens after Day of Black Sun leading up to Sozin's Comet. Anyway, but we probably will never get to the future that I would want, which is a Peter Jackson directed 6-movie adaptation of Avatar: The Last Airbender. So this will have to do. Cabbages. You can unmute to talk, Brainstormer. Not when the trailer is trailering.
But they need typing seems easier. Um, I mean, I kind of just said what I said there. Really don't have to say it on. I think
Anyway, so cabbages then. I suppose Brainstormer crashed yet again. God damn it. This entire live stream has been one long technical difficulties comedy of errors. I apologize from the both of us for this absolute clusterfuck of a live stream. I have to say I disagree with Brainstormer though while he is gone. I think that it could be a lot more visually cinematic and could translate the animation a lot better. To me it seems very made on a TV budget or like made on a network TV budget and or like TV movie level. It doesn't really look how I would translate the how for example, using my analogy, someone like Peter Jackson might have translated Avatar to the big screen. Although honestly, like my ideal scenario would be a Peter Jackson movie but written by Ang Lee. I know we all have PTSD from the Ang Lee Hulk, even though I actually like the Ang Lee Hulk better than I do the Ed Norton Hulk. But he's very good at doing Western adaptations of like kung fu movies and anime, so Ang Lee would be who I would get to write a live action Avatar series of movies, and Peter Jackson is who I would want to direct them. But in any case, cabbages.
I think just given how much issues we're having, I honestly think we're gonna have to call it. I don't want to, but I just don't think it's gonna work tonight.
Yeah, we might have met our match with regards to technical difficulties. Sorry, guys. We will try again. We will try again next week. And Dragon Turtle, if you want to talk over Discord, for a while tonight, that's fine too. Unless you're busy, in which case, then I guess I'll see you on Saturday, unless you want to talk before then.
Again, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it's been like three times in a row Brainstormer has just crashed, and between that and the echo from my mic, it's just technical difficulties. Everything changed when the technical difficulties attacked.
Yeah. Hopefully everything will be fine.
Yeah.
With that, goodbye. Sayonara, peace. And
the technical difficulties may go fuck themselves. Until then, fuck off.